Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Ahmad Al Qadi. I'm a Government Affairs and Public Policy Officer at the National Council of Canadian Muslims. Sudan is facing one of the fastest growing humanitarian crises in the world. What began as a power struggle has spiraled into mass displacement, widespread hunger, sexual violence, and ethnic cleansing at the hands of the Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF. Today, more than half of Sudan's population are in urgent need of humanitarian assistance. Millions have been forced to flee their homes, and entire regions are on the brink of famine. Some already face conditions that meet the criteria of famine. Yet, the crisis remains largely absent from global headlines. Recent escalations in late October 2025 involved the RSF's capture of Al-Fashir after an 18-month siege that trapped tens of thousands of civilians in the city in West Sudan that serves as the capital of the North Darfur state. With this takeover, there have come many reports documenting humanitarian concerns that Yale University's Humanitarian Research Lab has said amounts to a comparable level of violence of the first 24 hours of the Rwandan genocide. We were appalled, but not surprised, to see a CBC article expose Canadian-made weapons used by the Rapid Support Forces who are participating in human rights violations in Sudan. That's why we're here with Canadian Sudanese leaders on the Hill urging for change, and I will pass it over to my colleagues.
Good morning. My name is Ismail Adam, Darfur Association of Canada. And I want to extend first my thanks to Sudanese Canadian Community Association and NCCM, the National Council for Canadian Muslims, for organizing this day. We are here today because Sudan is enduring a horror show, and the world's silence is deafening. Darfur and Sudan mourn not only their death, but the death of humanity itself. Natural disasters seize attention. Sudan's greatest disaster is man-made indifference. This is not just a humanitarian crisis. It is crime against humanity. We must stop the war in Sudan now. Human rights protection is not optional. It is an obligation. The current crisis, according to the Washington Post, about 200 unaccompanied children escaped Al-Fashir to Tawila in the neighboring Al-Fashir. Some watched their parents murdered. Others lost them in chaos. Sudan's people deserve protection, justice, and urgent action. Anything less is betrayal. Our priorities are clear. Ceasefire, to stop hostilities, allow aid, millions face famine. Protection, endless mass killing, ethnic cleansing, and sexual violence has to stop. Diplomatic leverage, Canada can lead a multilateral push for peace. The inclusion of civilian, any peace process should include committees, resistance committees, women and youth must be the central of any peace process. Accountability. Canada must appoint a special envoy and support a fact-finding mission. Canada's role and responsibility. Canadian linked arms are in Sudan. Sterling Cross sniper rifles, Stride Group vehicles, a Montreal public relations firm representing the RSF. Canadian weapons should never be in genociders' hands, yet they are. It is the best interest of Canada and Sudan to impose an arms embargo on the UAE until RSF support ends. Adopt Bill C-233, Jenny Kwan's bill, to align exports with arms trade treaty. launch an investigation of diversion of Canadian origin arms, suspension of military exports to the UAE until clarity, higher disclosure of Canadian firms abroad, use Canada's 70 billion trade with the UAE to pressure and to end RSF arms supply, stronger enforcement of Canada Special Economic Measures Act. In closing, we cannot preach peace while weapons fuel war. Sudan is today's test of our humanity. Canada must choose legacy or complicity. Never again is not a slogan, it is a promise. Sudan is where that promise must be kept. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mamoun Hassan. I'm with the SCCA. So today, Sudan is the most significant humanitarian catastrophe on earth. For more than 2 years, millions of Sudanese people have lived through a war that has razed cities, that has starved families and silenced futures. The world has described it as the fastest growing displacement crisis, yet the response has never matched the scale of the actual suffering. The numbers, honestly, are quite staggering. More than 150,000 people killed, more than 12 million people displaced, and this is the largest displacement crisis in the world. Over 11 million children are facing hunger, the highest number globally. But numbers, to be frank, they don't cry. Numbers don't bury children. People do. And across Sudan, entire regions have been emptied. Khartoum, once, full of life, now looks like a ghost city. Al Jazeera, my own hometown, once Canada's agricultural heart, has seen mass rape, killings, and forced disappearances. And in Darfur, and especially in Al-Fashir, an active genocide is unfolding. The whole world is watching this. Al-Fashir has been under siege for over a year. 8 trucks sit just outside the city while families are starving inside. Satellite images that we've all seen are now showing patterns believed to be mass graves, bloodshed visible literally from the space. The UNICEF has documented grave violations against children in Al-Fashir, including forced recruitment and sexual violence, gender-based violence, including rape and trafficking that is being used as a weapon of war. Survivors of rape range from infants to grandmothers. And to just understand what I'm talking about, I do want to share some stories, or maybe one or two. But the first one is of a 6-year-old boy named Adam. This is a real true story that has been documented by Doctors Without Borders. Adam has fled the fighting near Tawila with his mother. She carried him for days, and she was barefoot, she was exhausted, and determined to keep him alive. When they finally reached Zamzam camp, the well-known one, he was so malnutrition that the doctors offered only sugar water because medical supplies in that camp never made it past the actual siege. For 7 days, his mother waited. For 7 days, she hoped. And then Adam died. Adam died in his mom's arms. Not because there wasn't medicine, but because the world, we allowed the medicine to remain behind the checkpoints. Adam is honestly one story. There are thousands more. You can ask me about them. I can tell you of so many of them. And Canada's always stood tallest when it chose compassion over hesitation and leadership over silence. And we're asking today, let's renew Canada's leadership in humanitarian action by restoring aid flows, especially to Darfur. Darfur is where communities have been isolated for more than a year. Supporting civilians in a crisis is a part of the Canadian story. This has to be known. It reflects the values we're aspiring to uphold at home and abroad. Let's invest in gender-based violence responses so survivors can access safety, care, and justice. Canada champions human rights globally. We are ensuring women and girls are protected in times of conflict. And this action, it's a reflection of who we claim to be. Number 3, let's help protect a generation of children by restoring pathways to education. 17 million children are out of school. This is the largest education shutdown on earth. Canada has always believed that education is the foundation of dignity, opportunity, and peace. Supporting this is a reaffirmation of our national ethos. This is not about sympathy. This is not about charity. It's about Canada actually showing up in the world the way Canadians are expecting, with courage, with clarity, and with conscience. Sudan needs action, and Canada is at its best when it acts. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. Thank you to the NCCM for sponsoring this event and for giving Sudanese Canadians an opportunity to be heard. My name is Razan Noor, and I am a volunteer with the Sudanese Canadian Community Association. Canada has set a great example in its response to global crises. We saw it when it opened its doors to tens of thousands of Syrian refugees fleeing unimaginable violence. We saw it in Canada's response to the war in Ukraine, where Canada demonstrated leadership, granting them swift, flexible pathways to protection during a time of crisis. Most recently, we witnessed it in Canada's response in the Latin American Family Reunification Program. These examples are not to compare tragedies, but to highlight Canada's humanitarian tradition, a commitment that is now being tested. Sudan faces one of the world's worst and most overlooked crises, with millions displaced and families torn apart. Yet, Sudanese applicants still face unequal, unjustified delays in accessing safety in Canada. Despite Canadian anchors taking full financial responsibility and applicants meeting every shifting requirement. We are here to say, clearly and firmly, that Sudanese lives must be valued equally. The urgency shown in past crises must be shown now. Sudanese communities in Canada and abroad deserve the same compassion, priority, and decisive action Canada has extended to others. Canada created a family reunification pathway to bring Sudanese families to safety. But despite promises of prioritization, the program has been limited, financially burdensome, and extremely delayed. IRCC has collected millions in fees while posting a 99-month wait time, even though other humanitarian cases are processed within weeks or months. In the first 13 months, only 9% of applicants arrived in Canada. Nearly 2 years later, barely a quarter has arrived. A humanitarian program with a 99-month delay is not humanitarian. A program meant to save lives should not become a bureaucratic death sentence. I say this with deep personal pain. I lost my own grandfather, an applicant in this program, before he could reach safety. Through my volunteer work within my community, I know that my family story is not unique. Many Sudanese Canadian anchors have lost loved ones they were desperately trying to reunite with, only to be met with delays that proved fatal. There is a profound sense of helplessness when we cannot even return to give our loved ones a proper burial. To add salt to injury, after seeing the horrors of the recent massacres in Darfur, we learned that the conscious decision was made to remove any protections or prioritizations for Sudanese applicants. Beyond these delays, IRCC has repeatedly ignored urgent pleas to save Canadian children who are dual citizens trapped abroad because their non-Canadian mothers are denied entry. We have raised these cases since April of 2024. Tragically, one Canadian child has already drowned in a displacement camp, and another is now unreachable. Overall, these Sudanese files are very small, only a few thousand applications, yet the government refuses to expedite them, citing the Levels Plan. This is a matter of political will. There are no logistical barriers, and a simple exemption would immediately reunite families. We know this is possible. Canada recently granted a one-time exemption for 115,000 protected persons already in the country. A similar exemption for Sudanese applicants would ensure their files are processed fairly and swiftly so no family endures a heartache mine did. We are confident that Canada can return to its legacy of compassion and reverse these cruel and deadly delays. Thank you.
We do not have any question at the moment. Nous n'avons pas de questions pour le moment. Is there something you would like to add to your statement? Thank you. This concludes the press conference. Merci. C'est ce qui conclut cette conférence de presse.
Thank you.